Okay, in this second section of the DVD, we're going to be looking at building strength and stamina, both in your left hand and right hand. For the most part in this section, we're going to be looking at alternate picking mainly, because most kind of shredding or really coherent shredding is mostly done with alternate picking. You can combine alternate picking with legato as well, and the two can create some monstrous sounding licks. But for the moment, I just really want to kind of try and help syncing up your left hand with your right hand. And there's a few exercises that kind of really helped me kind of develop this technique. And I'm always trying to develop my alternate picking anyway, but these are things that have really helped me in the past. So this first lick that we're going to look at goes like this. Okay, I'm not playing any of these licks particularly fast, even though this is speed soloing, but the idea is to kind of give you the sort of keys to unlock the door to potentially speeding up your playing a lot faster than maybe it is, or you really want to get to a certain level. So these kind of licks are really going to help, and we're going to be sort of like progressing these over different string groups as well, and then I can show you how to kind of build up patterns of your own as well. But the first pattern starts on the 19th fret on the high E, and we're going to start this with a downstroke, and bearing in mind we're going to be using alternate picking, which is you always start with a downstroke and then followed by an upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, so you don't ever have two downstrokes in a row, or you don't ever have two upstrokes in a row when you're using this technique. So start on the 19th fret on the high E with a downstroke, then the 15th fret on the high E with an upstroke, then 17 on the high E with a downstroke, 19th fret on the high E with an up, 17 with a down, and then finish on 15 with an up. And then we're going to go back to 19 and start with a downstroke, and that's the licks restarted again. So we're just going to be repeating this over and over. So at a very slow tempo, this is what it should look like, bearing in mind you're keeping your pick angled, not flat to the string, so it glides through a bit better. We're palm muting all the strings pretty much that we can, that we're not using, and my thumb is at the top of the neck here, but it's because I'm quite high up the neck, and I'm not needing to use my wrist, needing to bend my wrist to kind of extend my left hand. So it should sound like this. Okay, as you can see with that, we're just doing it really slow, trying to keep it at a nice even tempo. If you find it hard to do that on your own, you can either try tapping your foot, or get a metronome and put it on a fairly kind of slow setting, just so you can give yourself a chance to play along to it and really get to grips with how to do that. And then as you progress, you can kind of notch up the metronome, and you could have that kind of pushing you, so you can really sort of like play against it. And also, if you want to kind of keep yourself more in time as well, a thing that's really helped me is really focusing on accenting the downstroke. So if I play it again and kind of accent the very first note of each turnaround of the lick, you can hear what I mean. Okay, so as you can see, it's just picking harder on the 19th fret, which is the first note of every time we play the lick. And as you speed that up, it kind of helps you to sort of really follow the downbeat, so you can kind of lock into your timing. So as you speed it up, you're still accenting that first note, but it kind of keeps you more in time. So I'll start slow this time, and I'll just gradually speed it up, and then I'll slow it down again, and hopefully you can kind of hear the accent in there as I'm doing it. Okay. With regards to picking, as you're getting faster, again, you're using more of the wrist, and then kind of at my top speed during that lick, some of my forearm sort of tension came into play as well. I'm trying to think of a really good way to describe how that feels. How it was put to me, quite a few years ago now, was it was like somebody got a pen and they handed me a piece of paper and they went, try and get the pen and just draw from left to right as fast as you can without tensing your arm. And so you kind of do it, and the pen strokes are still quite sort of long. They're not very short at all. And then what then I was asked to do was then, tense your elbow ever so slightly and try and make like really small lines on the page. Probably it won't look like lines afterwards. It would just look like kind of, a stream of dots. But what you're doing is you're kind of tensing your arm enough to try and really minimise those lines on the bit of paper. And, if you do that, you kind of really get to feel what it feels like when you're kind of at top speed picking. So you kind of got the pen and you're really doing it like the smallest amount possible. Instead of kind of, trying to use your arm to do like the bigger lines. And from that moment on, it kind of, it made me really feel, what it was like to kind of, get to a stage with my arm where I could, pick a lot faster. So it was the difference between kind of going at this sort of speed which is just using pretty much the force of the pick and my wrist to actually kind of a little bit of tension in the forearm. And instantly it's kind of adds a hell of a lot more speed onto your playing. But obviously you don't want to do it where you're going to start damaging your arm, but that's literally the kind of analogy that was kind of put to me, and I felt that it really helped. So hopefully sharing that with you is going to kind of give you some insight into what it should be feeling like when you get up to warp speed with your picking. Okay, what we're going to do now is move on to moving that shape around. So we're going to be doing a few more shapes, and it's kind of like a musical exercise almost, because some exercises can get really boring, especially when you're building up speed. You're not really doing all the kind of flashy licks and stuff. You're really focusing on small areas of your playing, and that may only be 3 notes. And just to get your pattern together so your right hand and left hand can work in conjunction with each other. So basically what we're going to do now is just move that pattern around, and it's going to look something like this. Okay, to explain the lick that I've just played, we're literally concentrating more on the coordination between the left hand and the right hand, and this time we're going to be moving our left hand, so it kind of takes greater coordination to do that. So what we're going to be doing is using alternate picking with the right hand, so starting on the 15th fret on the high E string with a down stroke, and then we're going to be doing up, down, up, down, up, down. So that's all that really needs to be said for the picking hand. And for the left hand, we're going to be starting on the 15th fret on the high E, and these are going to be the notes. So we're going to have 15, 19, 17, 15. So then on each shift with the first finger on the high E string, it's going to start with a downstroke. So we're going to have. Now we're going to go back to the accent that I was talking about earlier. When I do things like this, it always helps to accent, well, it helps me to accent the first note of each shift. So we're going to have accent, accent when you move. So. That kind of thing. And what that does is it kind of really helps you find the downbeat in what you're playing, so you can really keep it in time. Okay, so we've got 15, 19, 17, 15, then move down to 14, then we've got 17, 15, 14, then down to 12, 15, 14, 12, and then down to 11. So far it should sound like this. Then after that we've got 14, 12, 11. Up to 12, play 15, 14, 12. Back down again. Back up again. Then up to 14 and play 14, 17, 15. And then just repeat that first section again. So at a slow tempo, it should sound like this. Then we're starting back on the 15th fret on the high E with an accented downstroke again. Okay, now we're going to be doing a bit more coordination work between our left and right hand, and this time we're going to be shifting, but the shifts aren't next to each other. So we're going to be playing a position, missing out a position, and then shifting underneath it, and then back up to the position that we missed out, and so on. So this first position starts on the 17th fret on the high E, and we play 17, 20, 19, 17. So we're missing out the position where we start on the 15th fret, and we're going to go straight down to the 14th fret, play 14, 17, 15. So we've got, then move up to 15 and play 19, 17, 15. Then move down to 12, up to 14, down to 11. Then we're just going to continue up. Okay, so again, it should be like this without me talking this time. Okay, and at a slow tempo, when you put it with the first part of the lick, it should sound like this. Okay, so you know, hopefully you can see what we're trying to do there. Now, you know, a lot of this kind of may look, you know, fairly simple, but to actually get this pretty bang on, you know, with your left hand and right hand working perfectly together, it takes a long time to really kind of nail home what's going on. And you know, just because we're not kind of, you know, literally raging across the whole neck doing this kind of thing, when you kind of break it down like that, your picking pretty much isn't really, you know, doing anything else. The only thing that you've really got to kind of master is moving from one string to another using alternate picking, which is something that we're going to look at next. So the next lick that we're going to look at is going to be this. Okay, so this may look fairly straightforward, just up and down, 6-note pattern, but in actual fact, kind of changing strings, a lot of people with alternate picking find it very hard to sort of skip over the next string and play an upstroke. But it, you know, it is something that you know, if you can really, you know, get under your fingers and really get used to, you're going to be able to kind of, you know, do really fast picking all over the neck, and that's not really going to kind of worry you too much. So first off, we're going to start on the 15th fret on the B string, and then we're going to play 17, 19. Again, it's up to you how you want to use your fingering for this, but I'm just playing first, second, and third finger with my thumb on the top of the neck, just, you know, keeping it nice and stable. Still palm muting with the right hand, still angling the pick forward at a 45-degree angle, and starting with a downstroke. And we're just going to do this. So when we get to the 19th fret on the B, we're then going to have an upstroke on the high E string, and it's going to be up, down, up. So it's the opposite of what we did on the B string. Then when we come down, the first stroke is a downstroke. So we finished on an up, downstroke. Then coming back, we've got an upstroke going to a downstroke, which to most people feels a bit more natural. It's normally going up that causes the problems, not coming back down again. So, I mean, to be honest, either going up or coming down again, it's still the same action. You've still got a downstroke and an upstroke, and when you're coming back down, you've still got an upstroke followed by a down, so you're just swapping it round. But it really is kind of, getting used to that and keeping it nice and fluid. Okay, so at a real slow tempo, this is the kind of thing that you want to be aiming for. Okay, so that's, keeping it nice and even, keeping it really clean. At this stage, you're not really worrying too much about how fast you can get it. You really want to make sure that your left hand and right hand can cope, working in sync with each other, just to really make sure that you're nailing it. Okay, well, what I'm going to do now is just start off slow and then, gradually kind of speed it up. And again, try and kind of watch out for the different stages of my right hand, or right arm, shall I say, because it will start off, fairly kind of subtle movement, and then the wrist will kick in, and, a slight bit of forearm action in there as well. So, as well as watching the left hand and what that's doing, the main focus really is kind of the picking and keeping it nice and clean. So, here we go. Okay, so as you can see there, the technique is pretty much the same at slow tempo than it is fast, but because you're kind of applying a little bit of tension in your arm, it allows you to keep those pick strokes really tightly together. So, I mean, that's literally what kind of speed is. It's just literally keeping your pick so close to the string, it's pretty much touching it every time. So, you've got the minimum amount of movement, so it's, it's less distance for the pick to then come back and hit the next note. It's just, it's probably not really getting that's the issue with a lot of people. I think it literally is just the synchronisation between, the left hand and the right hand. Because the left hand, has got the harder job of keeping up with the right hand. So, there's a couple of things to really kind of watch out for on that. And as I said, I know we're only doing it on 2 strings, but it really is the kind of, the fundamental technique that we're looking at, which is just going to allow you to sort of, blaze through the rest of the strings. And also that's a pretty good pattern as well, if you were going to do it across, say, like a major scale position. Like the pattern that we're doing at the moment is just the tail end of a 7th position of a major scale. So, if you were going to use that pattern across the whole scale at a fast tempo, this is the kind of thing that you would expect to see. Okay, as you can see, you're pretty much, applying that same technique, but just, in different groups of strings all the way up the scale. And you may have noticed that when I was doing that, my right hand kind of, shifted into a slightly different position. I just find that the anchoring subject that we talked about earlier in the DVD, it helps me when I'm actually playing on the lower strings. It just helps kind of steady my hand, and that kind of anchoring sort of like decreases as I get higher up the neck, because it kind of folds in and allows room for the pick on the higher part of the strings. Sorry, not the neck. So slow, my right hand is looking like this. Then you can always add the bend on there as well. So you've got like the 22nd fret on the high E, which is a proper Malmsteen bend on the end. Okay, right, so now we're going to move on to the next lick, which is just going to be going back to a practice thing that we looked at previously, but we're going to be basically just like moving that around and then adding some other bits in there. This is kind of where the endurance part starts to kick in, because the more technical aspects that you include in, say, like a really fast run or a lick, you know, it starts to take it out of you muscle-wise. So you know, it's really worth kind of, you know, doing a lot of it slow, and then when you feel like you could do it faster, then you kind of speed it up, you know, bearing in mind all the technical things that change, you know, in your arm and your left hand when you do actually speed things up. So this is the next lick, and then we'll break it down. Okay, it's pretty much a similar sort of thing as what we've seen before. With the one string example, you know, we were kind of doing the shift arounds, and we're pretty much including that same sort of train of thought, but across two strings this time. So starting on the 15th fret on the B, we've got 15, 17, 19. Then move to the high E string with an upstroke on the 15th fret. Back down. And then back up again, and then we'll finish at 19 on the high E. So up, down, up, and that's going to be the pattern for each section that we move to. So now the next section, we're going to start from the 14th fret on the B, and with a downstroke, and play 14, 15, 17, and then the same on the high E, down, and then back up. So at a slow tempo, we should have this. Then we're going to move to the 12th fret on the B and play 12, 14, 15, and then the same on the high E, back down and then back up again. Then we're going to play 11 on the B, 12, 14 on the B. Then move to the high E and play 10, 12, 14, then down. Then back up. So far we should have this. Okay, and a bit quicker. And up to speed. Okay, and for the last part, we're going to move back to the 12th fret on the B string, and we're going to play 12, 14, 15 on the B. Same on the high E string. So we're going to have, then we're going to play 15, 14, 12 on the high E. So, then we're going to have a shift from 12 to 17 on the B. So 12 on the high E, 17 on the B. And do that shape. So we're going to have 17, 15, 14, 15, 17, then 14, 15, 17 on the high E. So we're going to have then we're going to move to the 15th fret on the B string, play 15, 17, 19. Then the same on the high E. Back down to 15 on the B. So then we're going to move to the 20th fret on the B string and play 20, 19, 17, 19, 20. And then play 17, 19, 20 to finish off on the high E. So that last section slow should sound like this. and then you start again. So the whole thing slow should sound like this. Okay, you'll probably agree that that's quite a long lick to get through, keeping it nice and even, nice and clean. But what you'll probably start to feel now is that by doing the other exercises, your left hand and right hand are feeling really coordinated. And basically, even if you do that at a slow tempo, you're building muscle memory in your left hand and also your right hand, and you're really getting used to that kind of alternate picking with syncing up with your left hand. And you know, once you get more confident with it, then you can, you know, gradually speed it up and speed it up, and you know, hopefully you can kind of incorporate a bit more you know, technique from your right hand into increasing the speed. And then, you know, once you get it up to a reasonably quick speed, then, you know, just see how long you can do it for. You know, don't kind of run yourself into the ground, or, you know, if you start to feel any kind of pain in your left hand or your right arm or wrist or anything like that, then, you know, you should pretty much, you know, give it a rest and you know, like 10 minutes rest or something, or, you know, go and do something else on the guitar. But you know, if you keep it up, you're really going to kind of build up your muscle memory and everything, which is really important for playing fast. So if you get your metronome out and set it at a really comfortable pace, and then just literally kind of keep repeating it over and over again, it's going to get really monotonous, and it'll probably, you know, really do your mum's head in or whatever. But it's really worth it, and you don't have to sit there and play this kind of thing for 3 or 4 hours a day. You know, if you kind of even sit down and do it for 10 minutes, you know, you're really kind of getting there. But the main focus with, you know, playing fast, or, you know, building up your speed and stamina or anything like that, is not all about the speed. It's all about keeping it nice and clean, nice and even. So, you know, when you're playing with your band or whatever, and you've got your amp on 11 or something, you can still hear every note, and, you know, you haven't got feedback, you haven't got your strings kind of ringing out and stuff like that. And you know, you've got all these things that kind of happen when you're playing, and all you really want to hear is the notes and everything, you know, and everything you're doing. You're probably, you know, wondering what this is. I do occasionally have, well, I say occasionally, I think when anybody's ever seen me play guitar, I've always kind of had a hairband on the neck, but it's not, you know, you can still hear all the open strings and stuff, so, you know, kind of when it's down at that position on the guitar, you know, it's not really kind of doing anything. It's mainly more for, you know, if I've got any long tapping passages coming up, and, you know, for some tapping you might not be able to palm mute the strings properly, or, you know, any of those sort of things that you would normally be able to do with, you know, with your pick in your hand and using traditional sort of, like, you know, picking techniques, or just playing with your left hand or whatever. So that kind of aids, you know, in that department. But yeah, it's just all about keeping it clean and keeping it even, and that's really the aim of doing these picking techniques. Okay, well, we're going to move on to the last lick in this section, which, again, you know, is going to be doing a similar sort of thing, but we're going to be doing it over, you know, some more strings. We'll probably try and incorporate a few patterns, or just 1 or 2 patterns or whatever, you know, across just a normal scale pattern. At this point, there's not really a huge amount of theory involved. We're going to get a little bit into improvisation and how I look at the guitar later on in the DVD. And but for now, we're just literally concentrating on keeping it nice and tight, keeping the picking clean, and you know, really just kind of working on your speed and your stamina. So here's the last lick that we're going to be looking at. Okay, that last lick that I just played you, I think you'll agree is a fairly long lick, but that's the endurance part of this section. And we're going to start on the 9th fret on the low E, and this is going to be the pattern. Okay, so we're going to play 9, 10, 12 on the low E, same on the A, so. Then we're going to come back down, play 12, 10, 9. then repeat 12, 10, 9, then 10, 12. Then play on the D, we're going to have 9, 11 and 12. Okay, so far we should have this. Okay, then next we're going to play 9, 11, 12 on the D, and we're going to start that pattern all over again. So we're going to have so that's the same order of notes, but this time we're going to play 9, 11, 12 on a D, same on the G, back down to 9 on the G, then up to 12, and then repeat that again, sorry, so we'll have 12, 11, 9 again. So we're going to have then play 11 and 12 again, then 10, 12 and 14 on the B. So far we've got this. Then we're going to start this last part of the first section on the 10th fret on the B, and we're going to play 10, 12, 14. Then 10, 12, 14 on the high E. Then 12, 10. So we're going to have. Then we're going to shift to 15 on the B and play 15, 14, 12, 14, 15. Then 12, 14, 15 to end this first section on the high E string. So at a slow tempo, so far we should have this. Okay, and then we're going to move to 14, 15, 17 on the B and then on the high E. Then 15, 17, 19 on the B, then also on the high E. Then we're going to have 20, 22, 24 on the B, then 20 on the high E, and then we're going to have this pattern. So that's 24 on the high E, 20, then 22, 24, 22, then 20, so we've got, then that order of notes is just going to be repeated but on different frets, so then we're going to have 22, 19, 20, 22, 20, 19, then 20, 17, 19, 20, 19, 17, then 19, 15, 17, 19, 17, 15. Then we're going to have 17, 14, 15, 17, 15, 14. Then we're going to have 15, 12, 14, 15, 14, 12. Then we're going to finish with 15 to 12. So that section slow should sound like this. And then the last section, which is this. Okay, and that is 15, 12, 14, 15, 14, 12. Then 15, 14, 12 on the B. Back up onto the high E string. Okay, so then we're going to skip from the 12th fret on the high E down to the 15th fret on the G, and we're going to play 15, 14, 12, 14, 15 on the G, 12, 14, 15 on the B, then we're going to repeat that, go to the high E string and play 12, 14, 15, 14, 12, and then bend up 15 on the B string. And then you can always add the 15th fret on the high E string as well. Okay, so including that last bit, that whole last section should sound like this, slow.